18 seasons as AD here at Toledo, and you have a basketball coaching background.
Right.
What was an aspiration to be selected to the NCAA selection committee?
Well, I'm not sure it was an aspiration as opposed to it just happened. I was the MAC representative for the Division I Council, and our commissioner John Steinbrecher called me, and we were talking council business, and then said, "Hey, I want to run one other thing by you," and that was the opportunity to be on the basketball committee. And so, of course, I said, "Well, that would be terrific if it all worked out." And then, in turn, in fact, John replaced me on the council, and that put me on the basketball committee.
So, what was your first assignment, or what was the next thing you did once you were on the committee?
Well, once it became official, then they notified me after some time as to what conferences I was involved with, as far as keeping track throughout the year. 3 primary and then 4 other secondary conferences. And then as the season goes on, it's more of a kind of a global national look.
What does keeping track of those teams look like?
Well, I mean, as to the best teams in the conference, when we have a conference call, or we met in Indy in February, that once it came to the Mountain West, then I had to talk about those teams, what was happening within the league, just continuing to watch a lot of basketball and noting what was going on in those conferences.
Yeah, how inconvenient was it to watch a lot of basketball?
Well, it wasn't that bad. There are worse things. And now my wife may tell you differently, but just whenever I had the opportunity, early mornings or lunch or evenings, and a game could be played the previous night, and then due to synergy, I could watch it the next day sometime. So, there's no commercials, and so the games move along a little bit.
All of this tracking teams leading up to Selection Sunday to put teams into the bracket for the NCAA tournament. How familiar were you with the selection and seeding of teams before you were on the committee?
Well, I mean, just a little bit just because of the business I'm in, but as far as the exact detail, you really don't know it until you get in the room and you have all the data in front of you. You listen to various comments about leagues and teams, what have you, and so I knew just enough, but not nearly as much as I do now, I guess.
So when you walked into that room, did it take you aback, maybe by all the data that you had available to you?
Not so much. There is a lot of, whether it be team sheets or just conference, we had calls with our conferences per month, every month, and then we had a couple of calls with the entire committee, and then we met in Indy as well as a committee. And so I knew going in there was a lot of data, and it's great to have because there's some things you don't know and other things you pick up.
Yeah. That Wednesday, you fly to New York City before Selection Sunday. What did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday look like for you?
Well, sometimes it varied a little bit. Obviously, we met as a committee, and then we would take a break and watch games, and then come back and do more work. And so it was dependent upon the game schedule somewhat. A lot of games as the week went on, Friday, Saturday, there were more games at night, it seemed to be, as far as championship games, what have you. And then there were some on Sunday. And so it would kind of depend on the day itself. But we would, just spend a lot of time together. And it's a great group of people, incredible professionals, and I really enjoyed it.
As you're watching those games and as a committee member, if you have a notebook, what are you writing down from watching those games?
We have a lot of it prior to obviously going to New York, and so much of it involves, okay, who's going to be the champion here of this league, or who's playing well at this time, and we also look at who's healthy. That's what we find out from various conferences. Are there injuries? Are there suspensions? That type of thing. And so going into watching the games, that obviously gets into the bracketing on Sunday.
Just to go more specific, when you're talking about injuries, players being suspended, if you go back to Duke, Zion Williamson, who could have been out with an injury, but he came back, how much does that affect
Well, we talk about injuries, and not necessarily specific to Zion, but there are key players injured on other teams, and so we talk about that because you want to know who beats what team when they're at full strength, or who wins that game when they're maybe not at full strength. And so we talk about injuries.
What was the most difficult topic or most difficult thing about seeding these teams and ranking them?
Well, there's always, no matter how many teams are in the tournament, there's always going to be some that are just right there and don't get in. And then there are others that are right there but do get in. And so that's always that's the hard part, because it means so much to these schools. There's no question about it. But the number is the number as far as 68 in the tournament. So given all of the information we have and what each committee member deals with their conferences, and so we go from there. But I'm really pleased with the process. I have a bias, but I thought the selection process of the teams, what I'm hearing nationally and reading articles, was fairly positive.
What does the NCAA selection committee get critiqued the most for?
Well, most of it's about, a team or two not in, or another team that is seated here and should be there, or at a particular site, that type of thing. And so seating, there's obviously critiques on everything, but a lot of information kind of comes back as far as hoping that their team could be seated differently.
Right. With the MAC coming up, they've said it's the most competitive year they've seen MAC basketball in a while. Just having Buffalo get in, what is it going to take moving forward to get multiple MAC teams into the NCAA tournament?
Well, it involves, the season record and where teams are in the league, but strength of schedule, and intent to schedule maybe sometimes. And there may be years where you schedule a certain amount of teams non-conference wise and you think they're going to be good, but they don't turn out so good, so they're not quadrant one wins or even quadrant one opponents. So that can have an effect. But I really do think that the MAC, we had a great year, the league, and despite the fact that it's been some time since we've had more than one in, I going through this process, there's no doubt in my mind that we are to the point as a league that we're not thought of as a one-bid league. It's just where we're at right now. It's our cycle.
The members on the committee, did you know any of them
Oh,
before?
I knew most of them, sure,
Okay.
just in the business.
Yeah.
Other ADs, there's 7 total ADs and 3 commissioners, and then the NCAA staff that's there as well, and they're incredible. They're great. Like I said, I use this word, it's very, very cohesive, because we're in it together. We work hard at trying to have the right product at the end, and we want to say we did.
Yeah.
So.
Did you guys bond at all? I mean, spending that much time together?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's all part of it. They're my friends, and when you spend that much time together and trying to achieve the end result, a very positive end result, it's a nice bonding time.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing you learned, maybe about college basketball or just the selection process?
I just think the detail that goes into it, and I am so bullish on the committee and the NCAA staff as to how everyone is so committed to trying to get it right. And I wanted to think that going in, but now I know for sure. And it's a great group of people, and I'm proud. I'm very lucky to be a part of it.
Can you see it changing at all, the selection process going forward?
No, not right now.